What's up? Welcome to Purpose Living, where we will be taking a dive into what it means to live on purpose. I am your host, Christina Estrada, founder of Purpose Culture. Grab your favorite cocktail, beer, a cup of coffee, or tea, and come sit with me each month as we listen to inspiring guests tell stories of how they have made massive strides in living out their purpose. Welcome to this episode. I am so excited because this has been in the making for like 2 months. We were just talking about this and really excited for this episode. And before we get started, as usual, we're going to ground ourselves, breathe a little bit, get ourselves ready and prepared to listen and to learn. So close your eyes down wherever you're at, or lower your gaze, whatever feels safest for you in your space. And just notice where you're sitting. Just where your sit bones meet, maybe your chair, your sofa, maybe you're standing doing dishes, wherever you're at. Can you just drop in for a second and connect? Notice this beautiful life-giving force that we've been given, our breath. Maybe whisper out gratitude for the breath. And then begin to deepen your inhales and your exhales, equaling your inhale to your exhale. Maybe deepening it a little bit more, just noticing how it feels in your body. And then taking a body scan from your feet all the way up to the crown of your head. So we'll start with your toes, maybe wiggle your toes. Just the bottoms of your feet, wrapping around to the front, and then the shins, your calves, the knees, the hamstrings, the quadriceps, up to the center of your body, going all the way up the thoracic spine, to the neck, down each of your arms, to each of your fingertips. And coming back to the neck area, up the back of the head, the eyes, the nose, the cheekbones, the mouth. Take a nice breath in. Exhale it all out. Listening is an art. Understanding is a masterpiece. Today, can you have eyes, ears wide open to listening, to understanding, to creating that art within your mind, to create a masterpiece within your life? Take a couple breaths in and out. Take 2 more breaths. In, connecting with that art and that masterpiece as you listen today. Exhale it all out. Last breath in, and then exhale it all out. And blink your eyes open. We've arrived. We're here. You have going on right now.
Cool. Thank you. Also, I'm your niece, so if I call you Auntie throughout, that's why.
This is my niece and my sister-in-law.
Yeah. But it's really cool because I feel like we've gotten an opportunity to do so many quote-unquote work projects like this where we get to do it together because we're all kind of in the same field, which is really cool and inspiring for all of us. So thank you for having us here. It really has been such a mission, and we made it, so it's going to be great, and I love it. So my name's Marina. Where should I start? I would like to start with where I feel like when somebody asks me that, like, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and things like that. I feel like every time I have to think about like, oh, well, what does that look like in the very present moment? So I'll go from there. My name's Marina. I am the daughter of Corinne, who's sitting next to me, which is so exciting. Corinne is a first-generation Filipino queen. Amazing. And I'm also the daughter of Kevin, who I can, in the simplest form, I think, explain as a Mexican gangster pirate. Um, and I'm the daughter of these two. And I feel like I've really been thinking a lot about like where I come from and my parents lately. I probably because of the stage I'm in as a mother. I also, so as a mom, this year I have a 17-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 6-year-old.
Soon to be 18.
Yeah, so my oldest is soon to be 18. And so with that range of parenting, I think it brings up so much of my own origin story and like where I come from and what I gained from both of my parents. And it's just been really awesome. I would say my day-to-day life consists of I homeschool my two boys who are 6 and 10 years old. And I work for my family's real estate brokerage company. And I am a part of, really gratefully, 2 nonprofits that I get to do a lot of projects with. Currently, Project Kinship, I work with them daily, and I get to work in their youth department. Project Kinship is a company that is able to work with the community of those who have been impacted by incarceration. And so working in their youth department is really amazing. And then United Yoga Collective, where I get to help with fundraising and all kinds of projects around wellness, yoga retreats, facilitating yoga retreats, teacher trainings, day retreats, pop-ups, things like that are really fun and huge in the community. Yeah, that's kind of me right now.
All good stuff. Tell
Thanks.
us your favorite ice cream flavor.
Oh, I love ice cream so much right now. Last night I had this really amazing homemade French vanilla bean ice cream, and it tasted amazing. And I'm not really like a French vanilla person. Like I'm usually mint and chip or peanut butter and chocolate something.
You made it.
No, I didn't make it. Are you kidding?
Homemade.
I mean, homemade in this
Somebody made it.
restaurant. It was like a homemade thing. I don't know.
Oh, you made a
It was
restaurant.
fancy. It was a fancy farm to table restaurant, and they just like made this vanilla bean where I was like, what even is this? Just all of it in my mouth.
So
Yeah, it was so good.
that sounds awesome.
funny.
And then tell us what do you have a word for the year or a desire for the year? What do you want this year, 2024?
I think my word for the last couple of years, and it's just something that I'm still growing in, it's like a seed that's being planted and blooming every couple of months, is connection. For me, I feel like connection is at like the core of everything that I do. And what was the second question?
If you have a word, or
word.
an intention for the year.
Intention for the year is, it all evolves around connection. And I think, again, in this exact moment is health. Health is for the year. It feels like it's been a really tough first 2 months of the year where with just like being challenged physically, with getting sick in our household and things like that. And it kind of feels like that's everyone right now. So I'm like, I'm holding the vision of health, not just for myself, but for really everybody around me and everyone.
I love that.
Yeah, thank you.
Corinne?
Sweet. Yeah.
What are you up to?
I have to feel very comfortable with when somebody says, describe yourself, and because I just feel like lately I've just been in this space of constantly growing and constantly changing who I really am. Yes, I'm a mother of 3 amazing gifts from God. Marina, one of them, and Quinn is my middle little stinker, and then Kevin is my oldest, and also I'm all that stuff, grandma. I have 10 grandkids, and then an additional 6 from my husband, James. So I'm married too, and I've been married a total of, I don't know, maybe 50 years, 60 years, but not to one person. So there's a lot of...
You're like,
It's
wait.
so much wisdom.
Yes, and the thing,
Accumulation
and the
of
thing,
wisdom.
and then like right now, I again, I've just been discovering more and more of myself. The older I get, uh, before it was, I'm gonna say, maybe 6 months ago, I was facing fear as I got older, but now I'm embracing it, and I'm experiencing what we call like, I'm learning what the word elder means now in this stage. So there's so many different parts of me. Um, so this is where I am now. I don't know. I mean, I grew up, you know, um, it's great how my daughter brought up the parents. I've never really had, when I think of myself and describing who I am, I don't start with my parents, and I don't know if that's a generational thing or that's just who I am. So I don't know if I've confused the world right now with who I am, but yeah, this is where I'm at right now. Make sense?
Well, yeah, it makes sense.
Okay.
Any special projects you're working on?
Right now I am, I'm really just defining, as far as projects, I do have a side, uh, fun thing that I do, and that's with my candles. And then the other thing is just I've been really focusing on just really connecting with the family and the grandkids. Like that's a big thing for me, and just trying to really embrace my role as a wife too. So nothing. I'm at a different phase right now. So as far as projects, I'm involved in a lot of stuff that Marina has talked about with the yoga and the retreats and things like that. But
I wouldn't be able to do any of that without you.
yeah, so basically right now it's just connection too for me.
Yeah.
With family and just trying to just, I don't know. I'm just at a different phase in my life right now. Yeah.
I love that. And I think probably most listeners would be like, why are you having all these people on your podcast? And specifically like my family. And I feel I've told everybody this.
You have an amazing family. That's why.
I know, right? Gosh, if you guys only knew.
I know, right?
But that you have both played a huge role in even like who I am. Now I'm going to freaking cry. Great. But, Corinne has been... I'm just not going to look at you. Corinne has been probably like more of a sister to me than than I've ever experienced. And I've learned so much from her. I'm like willing to spend thousands of dollars on things that she says to do because I believe her fully.
Oh my God.
Good.
I'm trying to find clarity here who I am.
No, but you have always been such an encourager to my growth, my own personal growth. And then Marina actually was one of the reasons that I started doing yoga and was actually got to be under her teaching during yoga. And I've always just felt so connected to both of you. And the impact you've made on my life and who I am today is because of these little different threads of people, and specifically have been happen to be my family. And I just feel really blessed, and probably partially the reason why I'm still married to my husband. So, just kidding. That's totally not true.
Hey,
It's
that's
true.
okay.
It's true.
It wasn't for the women in our lives. I
Right.
think that's
We
a
begged
lot of
you
us
to stay.
agree.
Please don't leave him.
No, that's not true. But just thank you for everything. And I just get to kind of put this out like in a megaphone to the world out there, whoever's listening, that how grateful I am for those relationships and that connection that I feel I have. So thank you for that.
I think it's also a reflection of who you are to us.
Of course.
It's a
I was just gonna
ditto.
say.
Yeah, it's just who you've been to us.
Yeah, constant
Yeah.
pillar of support. You always have amazing ideas.
Authenticity.
But every single one is always aligned. Like we've talked about this so many times in the past of like every project we start, whether it's a podcast or a service or a product or a retreat or something that we're putting together, a workshop, a class, it's like everything is aligned with supporting other people and coming back to themselves and learning more about themselves, or in learning how to better cope with the world and hardship, challenges, any kind of circumstances. I feel like everything you do is around that. And it really is beautiful in our family that we get to involve each other in so many different parts of our professional lives. But even outside of that, like behind the scenes, you've always been somebody supporting every single thing that I've done personally. So I feel really, really grateful.
Yeah.
It's the best. Big old love fest.
I know.
It's like it's meant.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I didn't really realize the need that I would have. Growing up, you just don't think like, oh, when I come to adulthood, I'm going to need more support than I did even as a kid. And with my family moving out of the area, and some other things that happened along the way, you guys have really been my family. I mean, my real, like, I don't look at it as like a biological thing, but I really look at it as like a connective,
totally,
heart thing. So I just, want to make sure that you guys know that. I know you know that, but the world too. So
the world gets to know too.
Whoever is listening.
We know that for sure.
Yeah. So, I totally forgot, Corinne, to ask you what you want for this year, or if you have a word. I know you just said connection. Is there an intention for this year?
I know I was kind of feeling left out.
I'm sorry.
On that one, didn't ask me my favorite ice cream.
I know. I forgot to ask you because I got.
She really
I
wants
got
to talk about ice
really
cream.
nervous about telling you how I feel about you. So
She really. Please ask
It's
her about the ice
us,
cream. I already know her flavor.
I'm going to.
My word for the year is vitality. It's also health and vitality, and connection, of course. Connection has always been, I think, my thread growing up. I think maybe I would say when I started working, that's when connection became something. That's where I actually saw who. If someone were to describe me, the word connection, I would be like that. That would be I would be a connector somehow. That's who I just came
totally
into being,
Yeah.
But vitality for sure. Not just health, but like vitality. Gosh, I should have. There was this definition of vitality that I just read, but it doesn't make any sense for me to say it right now because it's not. I don't know where it is. But if I find it, we'll add it in.
How did the definition make you feel?
The definition, it gives me life. It gives me life, and it's outside of my body.
Yeah.
It's outside what my physical condition is. Vitality is something that's within, and you just have this strength, coming from spirit or just. And you just feel beautiful. You feel it's so many colors. So vitality would be it for me.
I love that.
And I forgive you for passing me on those questions.
What's your favorite ice cream? I don't want to leave you out.
It used to be Rocky Road, but now it's just been more. I've been more exotic lately. Just more in the tropicals, like the coconuts and like the
Taros.
Yeah, no, not even taro, but more like just different flavors.
Ube.
Yeah, a little bit, but more like the
when Rocky Road becomes basic.
Yeah. But so yeah.
Yeah. We're a foodie family too.
Yeah,
most
for
of
sure.
us, so we all like to eat a lot of good food. I love that definition that you talked about, or like the vitality and what it made you feel like, because this quote that I pulled, listening is an art and understanding is a masterpiece, is really under that understanding of what makes you feel that vitality is the masterpiece of learning. And that is like what I think of you as a quintessential like learner. You're always trying to take in, and you're never like, I've arrived. You're always like taking in. So I'm going to actually start with you, Corinne. How did that, because that is your legacy, learning, I think being a learner has been what I have seen as part of your legacy. And I watch your kids do the same exact thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're learners of life. They have the art of listening is kind of like something that they have really grabbed hold of. Where did that come from? And where did you, where would you say that drive to be a learner came from for you?
I would have to say because of growing up in a home, I didn't realize it was dysfunctional, what people call dysfunctional. You know, my parents, you know, I didn't grow up with my mom. I grew up in the Philippines the moment I was born, maybe 6 months or so into it. My mom sent us all to the Philippines, so I grew up with my grandparents, my aunts, my cousins. Then coming here, there was still no real like I didn't have this sense of mom and dad, because my mom and dad were separated. So there was like, but I had a lot of brothers and sisters. I had a big family, there were 7 of us. And so we basically raised each other. And we were basically on our own in everything throughout high school. And we experienced a lot of, for some people it was bad. I mean, there was supposedly trauma in it. But for some reason, I have a challenge of like looking at my life as having trauma. I've always had this, and I think it just comes from knowing that there's something bigger than myself out there. We can call it God, or before it was, I grew up in a Christian. I grew up in all kinds of different Christian. It was like there was Christianity in my family. There was Buddhism, there was Jehovah's Witness, there was Mormon. There was like, as far as what my mom exposed us to. And so there was always something guiding me along the way. I wasn't clear on it until I experienced, to me, the real challenge, and that was like getting pregnant and then getting married out of a result of being pregnant, all the things the right things to do. And then my marriage having very challenging, and just a lot of stuff. That's when the challenge, started happening, was after I had a really rough marriage, and to this person that I chose to love, that I thought, that I made a decision to love in spite of, because I was always about trying to do the right thing. To me, that was the right thing to do. Was if I'm going to get married, I'm going to have this baby, I'm going to, do the right thing. I'm going to be the perfect wife. I'm going to be the perfect everything. And that didn't happen, so...
You mean you didn't love being married to my Mexican pirate gangster dad?
I'm just kidding. I chose to love it.
You love what came out of it.
I chose to love. Yes. That was probably the best thing that ever happened, were the kids that I got out of the marriage. But still, it was all about choices. I don't know, how the marriage made me feel, where I was feeling. It always came down to like, how do I feel inside? And then I think I just discovered God in this higher being, this higher source, after, I was on my own. I was a single parent, was left to fend things for myself. And I realized that...
would you say that those were the things alone that caused you to... Like you had to listen up, and then you had to learn.
Yeah, I had to figure it out. Like there's got to be something more than all the right things to do.
Right.
There's got to be more.
You're like, I did it all. What happened?
Yeah. So there's got to be something more, and I think there was always that and it has to just come from, honestly, it started from this book called Knowing God by Francis Schaeffer. I think that's what it was. I really like, because it's easy to blame
Mm-hmm.
the higher being, or God or source or whatever it is for your circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just had to say, there was just something more more beautiful than my circumstance,
Mm.
and I just felt like he had a, whoever it is that's holding me, holding our planet up, and holding my soul and spirit somewhere in the palm of their hands. He's got a better plan. There's got to be a better source, and
Yeah.
I think just connecting to that, and just, I don't know. It led me to different people. It led me to different teachers,
Mm-hmm.
and everything from, and mainly to this one my favorite mentor, and that's to Deborah. Deborah taught us the art of being, so
Mm-hmm.
I think that's because when you can connect to who you are, then you can connect to everything else. I think. I
Yes.
don't. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it reminds me so much. I'm taking this master class with Jo Harjo. I might be saying her name wrong. She's a poet, an indigenous, amazing poet woman, and she was saying, excuse me, she was saying to write poetry. I mean, she has several bestsellers out there, but to write poetry, what she had to learn was to listen and then follow. And it's kind of like her mantra, because she says that's listening was the hardest thing for her, was just to listen. And then so she says, so then it became my mantra to like listen, follow, listen, follow, listen, follow. It was so amazing and so eye opening. And so as you're telling that, Mom, it seems like, and I've watched you obviously my whole life go through this, is you listen and then you follow, and you listen and then you follow,
Yeah.
and then you just let it guide you. And I think that that's one of the greatest things that I've been able to observe and watch you do, is that you say yes to opportunities, you say yes to people, you like move fearlessly throughout your life, even when things are like, we don't know how we're going to pay rent, we don't know where we're going to live, but there's always people that we're showing up and supporting. But I know it's because of your the way that you lived your life, and the way that you continue to live your life is in this way of like, okay, I'll listen, you learn, and you follow. It's like you never allowed your story or circumstances to define you. And even earlier when you said like, I think that there was trauma growing up. It's like, oh no, you definitely experienced a lot of trauma, Mom. It was traumatic, and you were experiencing it as a child. So when you experience that as like in your developmental stages, it becomes so much. A lot of people, it does define them throughout their life, and they're, they live from that place. But I think it was something in you. I think it was something that you were born with, and that you learned along the way. Was like, this happened and this was really bad and challenging, and I'm just going to keep going, and I'm going to keep listening and seeing what shows up around me. It's like you were so filled with faith, yes, but also I think you were just filled with like the desire to become, and to become more, to be more, to experience more, to provide more. And you never make it, like, really your whole life, I don't see you ever making it about yourself. And I think that that's such an incredible thing, especially as a mom today, where I constantly think about myself. I'm like, are they ever going to give me a turn? Like, these kids just ask me for things nonstop. But like my mom, you kept giving and giving and giving. And I think it's really beautiful. And I also see you now in a place in your life, like you said, I'm in a different place now, where you're starting to learn how to like give back to yourself, which I'm like, oh, it's really cool to watch and beautiful.
Yeah, I also think too, like giving taught you, that's how you learned. In giving, it was like, wow, okay, maybe in this situation I gave a little bit too much. Maybe I need to back off. And how did I learn? What did I learn from that? And then you would take the measures. I think that's like invaluable.
And I think too, right now, I'm really learning about spirit, like your being, like who are you really being? And I'm thinking about like, I think about death. you know, and when I'm gone, well, I don't want to be gone. You know, I would want my spirit to live on.
It will.
You know, and
Yeah.
I don't want to die.
You're not
It's
gonna
a natural
die.
fear.
That's what you want.
Took a turn real quick.
That took a turn real quick.
And we're down.
All right.
I want to live forever.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so
trust me, you
that's
are
what-
living forever. I mean, my mom
so
has
that
10
is
grandkids.
that
Jeez.
is like I think about you know.
But that's real. I think that is
like,
real.
yeah.
That's
Oh,
a real
it's
like
such a
when you
common
get
I mean,
to
because
a
we get
certain
caught up
age,
in doing things.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like we get caught up in in stuff, you know, and it's kind of like, and then you're at the end of the day. At the end of the day, you're like, okay, so what was accomplished here? Just a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And so and that's why
I think it helps you to solidify what you really want to give time and effort to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think as you get older, you kind of get that idea of like, okay, what do I really want to give time and effort to?
Yeah.
This part is a perfect segue into asking Marina. I had this one question that I felt like was really meaningful because I have been the recipient of watching you, which is a lot of reasons why I do the things that I do, and I'm living my life the way that I live my life. It's your fault. But what is one of your most cherished things that you have learned from your mom?
Oh.
I know there's lots of them, but
Yeah.
if you can choose just for a second, maybe take a second, if you could choose one thing that you've learned from your mom that you cherish most.
Okay, let me think.
You can
That's a
ask
big
me.
question.
I feel like I've learned more from her.
I'll ask you the
Oh.
question. I'm not
It's
going to
my
leave you out
question,
this
Mom.
time. It's her question.
That's my question.
How to cook.
How to cook, yes, that. There's been so many things. It's really actually challenging to nail down one thing. But I think on the topic of legacy, I think like what you just mentioned a second ago of like so many of the things that my mom has shown you, that has allowed you to do so many of these things in your life to be able to give back in your communities. To me, my mom is a connector, and she's been both the connector and the glue. If there was like a visual for my mom, I see like the idea of a stone or a pebble being dropped into the water and the ripple effect just expanding and expanding and expanding. I really like, if she was a visual, that's what I would see her as. Because growing up with my mom, you know, she was a single mom. She was extremely busy all the time, working really hard. I mean, I rarely saw my mom sleep or cry. And I'm like, wow, it's just incredible. And that's come full circle to now be able to see her give back to her own rest and be able to open up and cry more and like have those emotions that I think were held up for such a long time. But this ripple effect that she's created in not just my life growing up, because again, going back to my childhood, she was a mom to me, but she was a mom to all of my friends, all of my brother's friends, both brothers. Like, she took in everybody around us. For those of us that are in our family listening, like, we all know she's the glue in our family. She's the one that plans the parties and brings us all together, and really makes it important to remember, you know, all seriously like 350 of our family members' birthdays. I'm like, how does she know everyone's birthdays?
An average Christmas for us, just with immediate
Yes.
families, like 65 people
Yes,
at least.
it is so many people. That's like immediate family and cousins. So this like ripple effect, she leaves this lasting impression everywhere she goes. My mom will meet somebody and not waste time to stay on the surface level. She'll meet someone and like see something in them where she'll ask them the deeper questions. And she's okay with she's okay with going into the deep end with people. And she offers advice from like a really heartfelt space. I think that comes from her ability to listen, and also her like natural generosity that is inside of her. I know that the legacy she leaves in this like fear of dying or whatever it is, it's like there's going to be
Not
so
gonna
much.
die.
There's going to be so much that you offer people because of your words, your wisdom, your willingness to be vulnerable and share your own story and how that impacts others. But then just like also the deepness, but also the fun and lightheartedness. Like everybody who's around my mom knows, like she's super goofy. She has so much. That's why the grandkids love being around her. All of them, like they just want to be with Gigi. They want to cook with Gigi. They want to go eat with Gigi. They want to go anywhere with Gigi. Like she's all of our kids are so lucky to have her. And so, yeah, I think it's just this like ripple effect of what when she touches somebody, it not only touches them, but like I've heard countless amount of people say, your mom told me this 15 years ago. Your mom told me like that I should do this, and now here I am, and she told me to make a vision board, or she told me to make a list of the perfect guy, and it happened, and all these things. And I'm like, she would, she would tell you that. And so it's just really cool to see that. Like, it's amazing.
I will tell you the same thing I told Joe and Caroline, because I feel this, especially the three of you guys, is that like your legacy goes beyond just your family, and there's these like almost these sections that just stretch out to so many different people. And so I think when you think of your legacy, it's not just our immediate family, but the legacy, the streams of legacy, the threads that go out are like, I think in the Bible it talks about how God tells Job that he will have like his generations will go beyond Noah's and Job. It was Abraham, I think, but that his legacy will be more than
Countless.
he can count.
Yeah.
The stars. I mean, it's more than the stars in the sky. And I think
has,
of that.
right?
I imagine that,
Yeah.
like, and so when you said that ripple effect, that's exactly like what I think of, like, in the sense of it's extended beyond. So, so as we segue into kind of just looking into what we're really the meat of what we're looking into today, and segueing into building a life of passion and legacy through masterminding, goal setting, and manifestation. Tell us a little bit about how you discovered your brilliance through masterminding. No, Corinne.
Oh. Again, one of those hard questions. Discovered my brilliance?
Yeah, because that's what it is. I mean, I wrote that question. I was like, wow, that's a great question.
Masterminding came as it came, started, it's funny because it started at a church when I was with my sister. Of course, Caroline, she was a pastor. So we would have these women's group called Lilies of the Valley. And it was a woman's kind of, it was like a woman's, what do you call that in the church?
Bible study?
Yeah, like a woman's Bible study, but it was accountability. There was accountability among us. And then I don't know what started it or how I started the masterminding, but it came from a book. And I think because I was, it started really when I was a single mom, and I had to get this job, right? I had to get this job and didn't know I was going to be good in sales. And again, that was like a turning point in my life when I got this job, coming from like welfare, being on welfare, and then getting this job. I just wanted any job. I ended up at a sales job, and I didn't know I was a salesperson, right? And I became like one of the top salespeople. So being in the sales company, I was exposed to a lot of personal development books. And one of the ones that I was exposed to was the book called Think and Grow Rich. And in that, that's where masterminding, the whole concept of masterminding came about, where if you gather two or three people, where you share things that are common, and you kind of hold each other to creating their dreams out of this accountability group. That's when the idea came up, where I was just like, I saw that other women were going through like the challenges and the struggle of just feeling good about themselves. And I created this with my sister. We started a mastermind group of women. And whereas the original mastermind was a group of men back in the days of Napoleon Hill. But it came out of the book, Think and Grow Rich. So we started this mastermind group of 5. Well, actually, there was like 10, 15 of us that started. But then people started falling off because there's a lot involved in it. There's accountability. There's
It calls on you to really let go and
so it's and there's a lot of vulnerability that comes out of it. So that's when it started. We ended up with 5 solid girls that lasted for like 7, 8 years. And then from there we continued it through other women wanting to take it on. And surprisingly enough, Marina and Michelle came to one of our meetings one time, and from there took off. They liked what they saw, and it was something that just grew. And from there we've created so many circles of women out of this masterminding group. So it works. And I think it's one of the human basic needs of being held accountable and feeling.
And it's so you. It's connection.
Yeah.
It's so you. It speaks just to you and what you're about. Marina, can you explain for the listeners, for people who don't really know what masterminding is, can you explain that?
Yep. So what we've created is our 5-step mastermind process that, again, originated from my mom and her sister and you, Auntie Christine's group. It was the process is every week your group meets up somehow, whether it's over the phone, via voice memo, via email, on a Zoom meeting, or in person. And you each go over your wins for the previous week and your gratitude for the previous week. And then you go over your desired outcome for the upcoming week, your intentions for the upcoming week, and then you acknowledge yourself for something in that present moment. So it's those 5 things: the wins, the gratitude, the desired outcome, the intentions, and the acknowledgement. Yeah. And so we continue to do that week after week. And like she said, it sometimes does start off with a bigger group and then dwindles down to those that are most willing to show up week after week, because it's challenging, it's hard. All of us adults know how hard it can be to even just meet up with a friend for coffee. It's a big deal. But when you're in a state in a season of your life where you are committed to your own growth and you're willing to show up for yourself, then that's really when change can start to happen and you evolve individually and as a group together.
And could you maybe share a little bit of how masterminding has grown you, how it's transformed you?
Yeah, for sure.
And maybe even talk a little bit about goal setting, how that has been maybe a segue into that.
Yeah, so I started masterminding. I went to my mom's first meeting. I was 19 years old. At that time, I was a single mom. My daughter was 2 years old. And I just knew that I was like, okay, I've always been inspired by watching my mom, watching her have these groups of women. I think before it was masterminding with my mom doing her mastermind groups, it was like she said, Bible study. But I mean, she was always doing stuff with women, like Tupperware parties, makeup parties, selling Alouette, whatever it was. It was always just, I loved that I was exposed to women who were not in competition with each other. They were in collaboration with each other, and they were super supportive. And so, I mean, I still get confused nowadays when people are like, women are so competitive and they bring each other down. I'm like, really? Honestly, I don't see that. I don't. And I think I'm just grateful to be exposed to women who are not that way. And so,
I think too, masterminding, when you know what it is, it attracts those people, and the people who may not fall within that, it kind of
fall off.
Yeah, they fall off.
Yeah.
Which is probably why you've seen the come and the go of,
definitely.
Or, obviously time too,
Yep.
constraints, but
For sure. So masterminding for me at that age in my life, I really was just seeking, like, how can I grow? I know I'm not really one to do things as a solo person. I work really well on a team, and I know that about myself. I think since I was younger, and I'm a middle child in between my brothers, and I've always been very like connection, and other people's energy is really important to me. And I'm also really impacted by other people's energy. So I think with creating a mastermind with us all knowing like, hey, the intention here is to support and uplift each other. And that's what we show up for. This isn't a place where we come to like vent, or like, it's not our therapy session. We're not here to gossip. It's not like a place that really holds any type of negativity. Yes, we understand that there's challenges and breakdowns in life. And so we do talk about like, I'm in breakdown mode right now. I'm struggling with this. But we show up for each other in a way of like, okay, how can we support that? We're not going to go down a spiral and, or like join your team like jump on your side if maybe that's not going to be serving you in any sort of way. Like, we're here to be honest with each other and to uplift each other and support each other in whichever way we can. I think what I've learned in masterminding is that when you bring people together, especially that have different skill sets, like, yes, you want people in your mastermind group who you trust and who you can be vulnerable with, but also that takes time. But also people who have different skill sets than you. In my mastermind group that, with Michelle and Heather that we've had for several years, we all had some things that we had in common. We all practiced yoga. We all understood that kind of yoga philosophy. We all were parents and becoming mothers, or so we all had similar things in common, but we also had a lot of different things. Like, we also thought very differently. Our learning was we taught each other things that were like out of our own perspectives, and that was really helpful. And that really helps to broaden your mindset as an individual if you're willing to grow. It's like people who are not willing to grow or not willing to see a different perspective may not thrive as much in having a mastermind group. And so I think it's a great way for you to like evolve as a human being. For myself, that's exactly what it did. It got me out of my own comfortable mindset of like, okay, I know how to do one thing, and this is just where I feel safe, and I'm going to continue to do it this way. And it helped me to like think outside the box. Like, oh, I was never somebody that thought big about like education. I moved around and been to like 15 different schools my whole life. My parents didn't go to college. It wasn't really something that I would think about. But being in a mastermind group with those two people who were really big on education and, both had their masters, it really expanded my mind to think about something outside of like what I know and what I know to be true. And that was really cool. And to be exposed to different people, we've read books together. We were always challenging each other, like, hey, listen to this podcast. Tell me what you think about it. Hey, let's read this book together. And, tell me what you think about it. They got me to read things that I probably would have never picked up before. And so just the conversations that come out of that. And when you're in a mastermind group, you do a lot of goal setting. You do a lot of like, this is my intention this week. And your mastermind partners are there to support you through it. I think after a couple years of masterminding and like watching yourself go through the ebbs and flows of life and starting to understand like where goal setting can get a little bit, it can kind of guide you into like exhaustion or depletion if you let it, because you get in this mode. And I think in our culture and society, we are in a place of like, go, 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 like hustle and grind and do more and do more and do more. And that's not practical and not sustainable for a lot of people. There may be some people out there, and I can only speak from my own experience, but I know for me as a mother and being an entrepreneur my whole adult life, it's not practical for me to like always be in a mode of growing and setting the next highest goal for myself. That I've learned that it's really important to have seasons of rest and seasons of downtime. And I think it's
I'm
probably,
so glad you said that.
yeah, I think for the last 2 or 3 years, I had a studio before the pandemic and running that studio. And so I learned a lot in that process. But I think in like the last 2 to 3 years, I recognized the, I would say like the harm that can come with people, especially goal setting at the beginning of the year in the middle of winter. It's like, if you look at nature, nature doesn't say like, let's plant a bunch of seeds and force them to grow when there's a bunch of snow and ice on the ground. Like, that's not practical or sustainable. Like, yes, you need to rest. You need to be hibernating. You need to be like warm and cozy and eating nourishing, warming foods like soup. And like, we need to give ourselves that time to rest. And then spring is around the corner. And then that's a time to like, to plant the seeds, to start to water them, to create an environment for growth. And then I think when I started to understand that, my body adjusted better. It was like I was able to relax more. I was able to say like, let go of the pressure of a New Year's resolution or creating a vision board, December 31st. And like, yes, all these things could be things that are positive if you can also have like not a forced mentality that it needs to blossom right then and there. And I think that that's something that I'm learning personally of like, I don't have to be doing all the things right now. And I love the quote that me and my mastermind girls use a lot of just like, you can have everything that you want, just not all at the same time. And I remind myself of that when I start to get anxious about like, oh, I want to do this, or, oh, I'm missing out on this, or, oh, I wanted to build this by last month. It's like, no, you can have everything you want. It's just not all at the same time.
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of masterminding.
Yeah.
Has she done this on her own? Had she been in her own head about this on her own, she probably wouldn't have gotten the same result. But because you have other people, so the mix of the minds, the combination of the minds together as you're growing and you're having these dreams, and that's what masterminding is. It's a support, it's accountability, it's learning how to have balance, it's learning how to flow in life, with the support of like-mindedness, though, like having like-mindedness. And you're not going to get this with everybody. And there's also like there's this magic that happens when you mastermind, is that you get connected to the right resources. There's resources that just come up and that comes your way. It's like that saying also, what you want wants you. It all comes together, I believe, as a result of like masterminding with other people.
And that's like a perfect segue. Before we get into that, because I really want to talk about manifestation. That's one of the big topics I want to talk about. But I love that you said that, because I think that in our culture, goal setting has become a religion. It has become this thing that we are so used to doing, and we have to do it. And if we to do, and instead of taking time and, okay, I have this intention, but not being so married to that intention that you lose yourself and you lose sight of what your needs are. And I think the more that I've learned that, and it has been so much more freeing to me. I don't have to look in 3 months and go, oh my gosh, I didn't accomplish my goals. I'm at a quarter and I didn't accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. It's like, no, I did. What did I do? And then that's where the beauty of the done list comes in, which I've adopted, is, what does it look like to see what I actually do on a regular basis? And does it matter? What if my done list doesn't really have that much on it? What if it's like my done list only has a couple of things on it? Is that okay? Am I okay with sitting with that and not having to be so married to these goals have to be set, done, checked off, good, all right, we're good to go? Because
have you shared with your listeners, have you shared the done list? And like,
I think that I did in the last episode. I may have shared. I shared kind of a little precursor to this. To this episode, but part of even letting go of that it has to be this way is actually really freeing. So I think for the listeners out there, that goals are good in and of themselves until you begin to lose sight of yourself and what
I
your
think for
needs
so
are.
many years in the beginning when I was masterminding, I was setting goals that I thought I was supposed to be setting,
Right.
just from like what society had taught me to set, of like, oh, okay, I need to, my body needs to look this way, and I should be eating this in the morning, and I should be making this amount of money every month, and I should be in this kind of relationship. And I was shoulding all over myself, just shoulding and shoulding and shoulding. And it was so interesting, but it's because I wasn't really in tune with like my why. I wasn't really in tune with my essence of who I was, of who I wanted to be. It was more just about like, what am I supposed to do? And everybody, I'm sure so many of the listeners here can agree or have a to-do list. Like, how many times do we keep a to-do list in our phone, in our notes, in our planners, whether they're written, maybe sticky notes, whatever they are. And the to-do list is always going to be there. We're always going to have things to do. And the more we focus on our to-do list, the more the to-do list is going to grow.
Right.
We're focusing on it. It's going to always be more to do. And that's why I love the done list and that you're practicing that. And it was a tool that we learned from Deborah and our coach. And she, the done list is basically, you're just, instead of a to-do list, you're writing down everything that you got done. And the magic in that is the more you focus on your done list, the more things are getting done. Whether or not they're getting done by you or by someone else around you, it's like they're still getting done somehow. It really is
Which then turns
magical.
your eyes really out to what is coming at you and what you're receiving, rather than what you're doing.
Yes.
And opening your eyes to that it's magic.
That
Right.
It really is.
It's powerful too.
Yeah.
And you get life out of that. That's life.
Yeah.
That's really living that way.
I wanted to share one other thing with coaching, and I'm a coach, and like with clients, I think about, there's a lot of people who will set goals and then become hard on themselves when they don't complete the goal. And I used to be this way as well, where like setting a goal and then I look back and I'm like, oh, where'd that goal sheet go that I wrote down all my goals on in January? And then I look at it in November and I'm like, yeah, I haven't done any of this. Like, I don't even actually want half of these things that are on this goal list. And I think that's where people kind of get things twisted is, well, I see two different types of people. I see people who write it down and they're really in tune with what they want, and they look at that list every day of their goals, and they like breathe into that list and they see it and they let it change, and there's some flexibility. And then maybe in a couple months down the road, they see the list again and they're like, yeah, check that off and check that off and check that off, because it's in alignment with like who they are and the way that they're living their life. And then there's another type of people who write out their goals and kind of put it away. It gets closed up in a journal that they don't open for a couple months, and they're very disconnected from who that person is who wants to accomplish those goals. And then they're like, oh, I didn't do any of that stuff. Yeah. And now I'm disappointed in myself. And like, now I don't even feel encouraged to create new goals, because it's like, clearly I can't even do these old ones. And I think it's very easy to be both of those people at different times in your life. And it's just about having an awareness to like, if I'm going to set a goal, why am I setting it? What's the feeling behind it? What's the essence behind it? Yeah.
Yeah, I was totally like thinking, before I forget this, sorry, Corinne, I cut you off. That is like our Western culture, right? Get it done, get as much as you can get done. The more you get done, the more successful you are. Yeah. And even have seen that in yoga. Yeah. And for those of us that are listening and practice yoga, I've even encouraged so much of my class to just not even think about what they're doing with their body. Even if I offer them a posture, what does your body feel like? Does it matter if you're in the right alignment? Like, is that really the goal of this, of you doing yoga in the first place? Yeah, I mean, and it's such a parallel even with goal setting, with anything that we're like looking to attain some sort of perfection in, is that letting go of that frees you up to allow you to see things so differently and to feel and really remain connected to yourself and to your body in ways that we were meant to. We were really created and meant to experience.
I love that.
As she was talking, Um, and you were talking. I was just I was just thinking about all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Number one comes with age,
Mm-hmm.
time.
Yeah.
You don't even know this. You don't know that you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because now in my life, I'm realizing like I've done all of these things, like the goal settings and all this stuff, but I've just, that's exactly what it was. It was just a done. It was like
Mm-hmm.
do. But the feeling and the essence of like of what it takes to actually do something and be connected with it in your heart and soul, and you feel good about it, it's time with yourself, like
Mm-hmm.
sitting
Like we have
down.
it all backwards. Is that
Yeah.
what you're telling us?
Yes. Yeah, it's like it's taking the time. We actually don't. We It's easy to write it all out. It's
Yeah.
easy to even dream,
Yeah.
but actually sitting down and asking yourself, what do I really want? You know, and what's it, how am I going to feel after all of this? Do I really want that?
Yeah.
Um but that's time. It's like it takes time to actually even, like, that's my biggest challenge. And I was just like sitting,
Mm-hmm.
not doing anything, not
Mm-hmm.
watching any kind of series, hiding in my TV series or whatever it is, but just like time, like the actual, like we all say we meditate and all that stuff, right? But do we really meditate?
Right. Or
Other
do
than
we
like the people
do
that
it just
are
to
really
say we did it?
yeah,
Check.
yeah,
Check.
yeah,
We're done.
yeah. But is it really? Is it? It just takes time, you
Mm.
know,
I
with
love that you said that.
yourself, with
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
Like stop the noise.
And I think that's probably just years of practice too.
Yeah.
That's really probably one of the greatest practices. is
Years
really
of
listening.
practicing. It's actually like years of practicing like goal setting without even really practicing what is really the most important part, and that is like asking yourself, what do you really want? Getting the true, I think, clarity.
I love that.
You know, so
I really like that. And like part of like what one of the things that you said is that we kind of talked about with the done list is allowing things to come to you. And I always thought like manifestation was like this woo woo thing that was like, oh, well, if I want it and I put it out there in the universe, then it'll happen to me. And a lot of people think of manifestation like that. And I have just recently, probably in the last 6 months, learned that is actually the exact opposite of what manifestation is. And that manifestation is more about seeing something that you do want, but leaning into what will get you there. So for instance, for me, it's like, okay, I want to feel more joy. I want to manifest more joy in my life. Well, what brings me joy? What are the things? I can't just say I want more joy and just sit there and wait for it to come.
Yeah.
It's not going to come.
right,
It's
exactly.
what am I looking, where am I looking for joy? What am I doing? I'm not doing, but what am I being to elicit that
who
joy?
Who are you being?
Who am I being?
Yes.
What am I,
What are your thoughts?
what are my thoughts
What are your
that are going to
thoughts? Yeah.
bring, or that are going to be the thing that is going to elicit joy?
Yeah, because like they said, your thoughts become things. So if you're wanting something, but yet you're thinking, oh, like I'll never get there, I'm too fat, or I'll never get there, I don't have enough money. That's your thought. You'll
Right.
never get
You'll
there.
never get there.
You'll never get there, and that's the magic of manifestation. It's I really believe that our higher source, God. I mean, when you stop and look at the earth, the world, and all its beauty, we're all dust. It's like He wants us to have everything that we want, but we're so conditioned to like have to, like that be do have thing. We're so conditioned to like, well, I can't get there until I'm this, then I'll get it.
Or I do.
Yeah, yeah.
this.
And so it really is manifesting is as easy as your thoughts. That's what it is. It's what you think about, and the feeling of how that thought makes you. It's getting into the feeling of that thought of what
And
you
also
want.
not based on anything that anybody is doing or not doing. That's the other trip, because we always go, oh, well, I can be joyful if this happens with
Right,
this
right, right,
person.
right.
It's like, well, what if
No.
that never happens? So you can't have joy?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so it's really been an interesting journey in really deconstructing what I thought of manifestation. Because I think we do think like, oh, you just think it and you keep thinking it and you keep, write it down 30 times and you'll have it, and it's just this kind of, it is a woo woo thing that we put out there, but that is actually not the magic of manifestation at all.
You get everything you want.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, everything that we have, every single item that you have here in this house that you have, right? You wanted it, right? You've wanted it at one point. Every single item that we have on, we chose it. We chose this sweatshirt, this pants, socks, everything, makeup, everything that it was a want. That's manifestation. You can have anything you want. It's just by choosing.
I think,
add to that?
yeah, because I do believe that. I do see that, like, you can have anything you want. I think from my own personal experience, there's been so many challenges. And I think, diving into like mental health would be a whole other different part of it, because I think so many times we want to have control over our thoughts, and life circumstances, challenges, loss, grief, those can all be obstacles and manipulate our thoughts in different ways, and those can be so powerful too. So I don't want to take away from that experience either, of like, oh, well, just think about happy thoughts and then you'll be fine, because I have had like coaches in the past and mentors in the past and other teachers tell me like, oh, well, just have a positive mindset, oh, or just choose happiness, and I'm like, am I allowed to say fuck? Like, fuck off, like, don't tell me to choose happiness when I'm in the midst of my grief and my pain. And so
there's a balance.
There's
for sure.
There's like a fine line on it.
It's a boundary too. There is a fine line.
There's a fine line. But I loved what you said of like, Auntie Christine, you said something about like knowing, oh, can I have joy? But okay, I can have joy if this person just stops doing that, and like dependent on external circumstances. I think once we understand the importance of our internal, like our own internal guidance, our own internal power, our body wisdom, our intuition, understanding our intuition and our ego, and holding them both with the same love and tenderness of like, oh, is that your ego? Your ego is talking. Just don't let your ego be in the driver's seat. It's like, if my ego keeps jumping into the driver's seat, there's clearly something going on that my ego is trying to tell me, and how it's most likely trying to keep me safe in some way. And so if I keep pushing it to the back seat or just telling it to go away, it's just going to get louder. It's going to keep speaking up in different ways. It's going to come up in different emotions, or even worse, it's going to come up like in illness in the body, or something's going to happen. Like, so if you can't ignore those thoughts also that come in that feel negative. It's just, how do you create a relationship with yourself? And I think all of that comes back to connection. It feels like really deep for maybe if you don't have an understanding of like somatic healing and understanding your body and intuition. But once you do go there and allow yourself to learn more about yourself and all the layers of yourself, then it gets really simple.
Yeah, and that's
simplifies
what I'm saying,
everything.
When I say it takes time, that's the stuff. Yeah. What she just said. That's the stuff. That's the level that you got to go to in order to, I think, experience
the art.
The experience.
It's a dance.
What have I learned from her? It's just amazing. She's kind of like now our guide, like our spirit guide in the family, like the whole family looks to her like, Marina, what are we supposed to do here? Like even the boys, they slightly kind of, they don't want to go. They barely want to touch it and give her that power, but that's what you have to go to. I think each person, it's a choice. That's what I mean by choice. You have to choose to like take that time to listen, really listen, and what is it that, what is your heart and soul, your energies, it's a different level.
Yeah. And I think that you have to have tools to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really something you can go, oh, okay, today I'm going to listen to my body and listen to my heart. I think that you have to have the tools to be able to do that. And I think that's where masterminding can come in. I think that that's where having a coach can come into play. I think that's where, things like yoga and meditation practice can come into play. These are all the ways to get to know yourself better, is creating an environment that is safe, that you can go to start to explore a little bit deeper and just see what you discover and be okay with not understanding or not knowing everything. Because like my mom said, like, we don't know what we don't know, and we have to have space for that in your life. Of like, my coach calls it like blue sky thinking. Like, have space to just not know what's over there and be okay with that. Know that something's coming, and there's room for that. And it doesn't mean just like sit around on the couch and watch shows all day until you figure out what you don't know. It's like, no, now we can create some inspired actions and like inspired action steps to start to live your life in the way that you would like to, and start to be who it is that you want to be.
And
we do get to choose
explore,
that
be
part.
open to the exploration process.
And if you're sad, just be sad. That's okay too. Like, it's all right. It's raining out.
We're so spoiled here. It's raining for 2 days.
It's raining, just be sad.
It'll be sunny in a couple days.
Make some soup.
You're so spoiled. So much privilege.
Oh my gosh. I could like fully nerd out about this conversation for
I'm
hours and hours, because there's so much.
Maybe
to
we'll have
this.
a number 2.
I know. I
Like
feel
6
like
months.
it's
I
definitely
think you guys need to have
necessary.
a podcast together. Like the back and talk, talk back and forth,
Yeah. So with all that, what would you say to somebody who is maybe facing some obstacles, just in life in general? I just wanted to kind of hit on maybe like 1 or 2 sections of people, maybe people who are, in a space where they're feeling like hopeless, and they're feeling like, wow, I don't have community. I don't know what you guys are even talking about. Like, I don't even know where to begin. Where would you direct them? What would you say to them? They're sitting here.
It's a good question. You want to go first?
Go for it.
I was just going to say, I felt like, that's a lot of how I talk to myself a majority of the time, because there's so many times that, I have all these tools, I understand them, and there's still moments in time where I feel hopeless and I feel sad and like, I'll just pretend I'm talking to myself. So what would I tell myself? Is to take it one step at a time. Like, it's okay. First, acknowledge the way you're feeling in this moment. Like, whether it's you feel lonely, you feel sad, you feel confused, acknowledge that. Like, that's first step. We've got to recognize what we're feeling. If possible, to gain some sort of acknowledgement or acceptance over it, I would say take a look at how far you've come, because that can come with acknowledging yourself of like, you've come a long way. Think about all of the challenges and obstacles you've come from, that you've evolved from, that you've grown from, and that you're still here today, and that's a really big win in itself. And then I would say to ask, if there is something else, like asking yourself, is there something else I can do in this moment to better my situation? What would the one thing be? And then just listen. Like, just listen, whether you're a journaler or you're somebody that just likes to stare and sit out the window and, watch the birds fly. Just take time to listen, because there's so much internal wisdom that we have when we give ourselves permission to get quiet enough to just listen and see what comes up. And maybe it'll come up like, reach out, call someone. Maybe it's ask a friend who just talked about having a life coach. Maybe it's reaching out to one of us, like, hey, I want to start a mastermind group. I'm curious. Maybe it's checking out a local yoga class. See what kind of ideas or voices come up, what kind of inspiration comes up. Write it down. You don't have to take any immediate steps, but just that'll help. It's just like an easy process to get out of your own head and to get out of your own little warped up nest that we accumulate sometimes in like the dark places of our mind, and to like step outside of that for a moment. That's what I would say.
I love that.
Yeah.
Just second that.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to add?
Second, yeah. And the thing that kept coming up for me as she was saying that is that at the end of it all, if you have breath in your life, that you're breathing, you know, you can hear your heartbeat, you're okay.
Yeah,
You're
that
not
body
and you're not
connection,
alone.
understanding like that you have.
Yeah, you're not alone.
Yeah.
And call after you've done all the things that Marina just mentioned, and you're there. Remember that there's life in you when there's breath, when you're breathing, and reach out, reach out.
Yeah. I think one of the
two
things
minds are better than one.
Yeah, right. When you were saying that, just talking about that you've come so far. Sometimes it's almost talking to your old self and saying thank you for all of the ways that you supported me, all the ways that you were there and you loved me through, and even the parts that had to protect myself that may not have seemed as though they were the safest. But thank you for doing your job. And it's like, I think that has been like the thing I've learned is to thank that old self and then say, okay, thank you. And I can move in a different direction or maybe sitting in that gratitude for yourself and everything that your old self gave you.
I love that. I would definitely challenge anybody who's listening to take a moment to actually see, like, have you ever done that? Have you ever gone back and thanked the different versions of yourself that have come along the way? And like, when we do that, we can, I think there's so much wisdom that can come from that, and so many messages that we might be able to get from all of the different versions of us. Love that.
And then the second person I was thinking about was maybe somebody who's already kind of has a knowledge of goal setting, and maybe not masterminding, but goal setting, and is kind of like, or manifestation. They're kind of on the edge of like, I don't know about that stuff. I don't know that stuff really works. I don't know that that's really something for me. But I know that I need to change something, that something's not working for me. What would you say to that person? I know there's a lot in between these two people, but we only have time for one more.
So somebody who's kind of like on the edge, you're saying.
Yeah, and they've already experienced like goal setting. They feel like a failure. They haven't completed, what they set out to do. Maybe there's a couple of things they have, but they're kind of like, it's kind of woo woo.
So for me, I would say is to dig deep. And what is it that you want? Dig deeper. It doesn't have to be goal setting or manifesting, but what do you want? What is that thing that's going to give you life inside? What is it that's going to make you feel that joy? What do you want? Not what does your partner want, or your children want, or your parents want. What do you want? What do you want? And take steps to move towards what it is that you do want. Because again, I'm going to say it one more time, is what you want wants you.
Ooh, yes. I think that's so important, because it's true. I think people who do they're in their head a little bit if they're thinking like, oh, if this isn't for me, this isn't, but, or I'm not sure if this works, or, kind of questioning things. I think if you're in a state of questioning things, I think that's a really, really great place to be, because you're almost to like open slate beginner's mind. If you can get back to beginner's mind of like, I know nothing of what what I think I know is maybe I don't know anything. I would try to go there. Usually people who have already started to create a story of like, oh, that doesn't work for me, or oh, I'm not like that, or oh, I'm not like this. They usually have quite a few filters on over their eyes of like what the world looks like and what's actually happening. And so I think it's just such a great thing to and
You're definitely not cutting that out. This is real life right here.
We're just gonna keep it going. Kids in the bathroom.
I love that you said that, the beginner's mind, because that really is where you have to come from. And I think we have to return to that many times, is because we've never arrived. And there has to be this constant like calling on that beginner's mind to come into play, because
Yes.
then our ego steps in a lot of times and says, well, you already got it. You got it all together.
Yeah.
You know? And so I think that that's like an invaluable thing
Yeah.
to remember for all of us, no matter what stage of life we're in.
Yeah.
And the beginner's mind for Corinne is going to be different than the beginner's mind for you or for myself in just different stages of life.
Yep. For sure.
And that's what I'm hearing, is that we're all in that like space of beginner's mind and learning.
Always. It doesn't end.
And I feel really grateful that we have the ability to go there, because I see people who are on the flip side of it and get so stuck in their own ways, and there's no more growth. There's no more evolving. And how can you be successful in a world that's constantly evolving but you're going to stay the same? It's like, well, no wonder you're feeling stuck, or like people who feel like they feel blocked, or, you know, creatively or successfully, or in your relationships. Like, you've got to come back to the beginning, like clear the slate and start again.
Yeah.
It takes it's a practice.
I love this. I mean, we've hit so many different spots, and such a short time. We could be here for hours talking about all these things. But I think as we wrap up, just if there's like, maybe if somebody's interested in masterminding, interested in maybe just learning more about coaching or anything, learning more about what you guys are each doing, where can they find you?
Yes, please reach out if you are, because I'm in a space now that it's almost spring. I'm like taking more and available for coaching and mastermind mentorship. And so I get a lot of people that reach out and ask, like, how do I start a mastermind group? And it's basically if you have 2 or more people, 2 to 4 people is a great start for a mastermind group. And you just reach out. We get you guys our mastermind journals if you want to get started with those, or we could just do a mentorship where I would like do a call with your group a couple times a month, and that's what we do, and we just start. You know, there's not really much to it. It's really exciting. There's a lot of growth automatically, and then you kind of find your own rhythm as a group, and you're on your own. But yeah, we have lots of ideas. And if it's not me being able to support you, then we have, you know, so many of us that have done mastermind mentorship before. Same thing with coaching. I'm available for coaching, and I usually do like an initial coaching call with someone just to see like what their intentions are, how they're wanting to grow and learn, and what their learning style is. And if I don't feel that I'm the best person for you, then I have tons of recommendations for other coaches. So there's just so much support out there, and you can find me on Instagram at Yoga Rays. We have a mastermind Instagram as well. Yeah.
Yep. Yes, same way. Same thing for me. I'm your resource. I have a lot of resources. If it's not, I can connect you to whoever and whatever you need. I guess you can reach us on our Instagram, or just our phone number, or just text. Yeah.
What's your Instagram?
Gigi's World. Wait, it's GG, the letter G as in giraffe.
G
Z as in zebra _ world. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she also makes amazing candles. So what is your candle Instagram?
At Your Giving Candle. And it's better to text me, though.
Okay.
Text me.
If you want to come hang out with us, we have retreats coming up, so you can come and just hang out with us for like 3 days and eat good food and
or
talk
if you
about
just
stuff
want to
like
come
this.
and hang out with our family too at our family gatherings, just reach out.
My mom will invite. If you reach out to my mom, she will invite you over for dinner.
120 people at our gathering. It's not
She'll
going to
be
be
like,
here.
"Do you want to eat adobo? What can I cook for you?"
I know.
You could be the UPS man, or the AT&T guy, and she might invite you over for dinner.
True. You never know.
True. So true. Well, thank you guys so much. I love both of you so much, and
we love you
just
too.
feel honored that you stepped into my space with me.
Thank you so
Finally,
much.
I
This
didn't
is
think
so
this was
great.
ever gonna get done.
We did it.
Be sure to follow livingpurposed.podcast on Instagram for more in-depth conversation and opportunities to get your questions answered and to be encouraged along this path to learning and living out our divine purpose. Let's live purposed together.